Welcome to Pep Talks with Eric, the podcast where self-work becomes system work. I'm your host, Eric Ayers, creator and author of SimRx, Transforming Healthcare, Leadership, and Culture by Design. This show is your space to shift perspectives, ignite action, and remember who you are and who we are in the process. Every week, we spark transformation, from burnout to breakthrough, from surviving to designing. You'll hear real stories, real tools, and real humans doing real work. So let's shift, let's build, and let's spark what's next together. I'll see you inside. Guys, welcome to another episode of Pep Talks with Eric. I'm your host, Eric Ayers, and I've got a good one for you today. So have you ever promised yourself, I'm never doing that again? And then a week later, you're right back in that same cycle? Maybe it's snapping at someone you care about. Maybe it's procrastinating on a project you said you'd finish. Maybe it's falling into the same old thought patterns that you've been trying to escape. We've all been there, right? Here's the thing. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're broken. And it's not because you're not disciplined enough. It's because of something deeper. Something Bob Proctor taught me years ago, and I've been reminded of it recently. And once you see it, you'll never look at life the same way again. I call it his paradigm stick figure. Don't worry, this isn't some complicated psychology lecture. In fact, I've got my whiteboard behind me, which is something I love. And I'm going to keep it simple, precise, and easy to follow. Because when you understand how your paradigms were formed, how they run your life, and most importantly, how you change them, you unlock the power to create entirely new results. All right, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. Why we keep repeating the same loops. How our thoughts and emotions create our reality. How a simple shift from reaction to response can rewrite our entire story. So, let's start with this simple stick figure. Imagine it represents you the moment you were born. All right. So, this is our head. This is our body. This is nothing fancy, right? But this drawing might be one of the most powerful tools for understanding how our life has been shaped. Now, the head is broken up into two parts. We have the conscious mind and the unconscious or the subconscious. Now, the conscious mind that's our thinking mind. That's where we analyze, we choose, we imagine. The subconscious mind, that's our feeling mind. It's where our habits, beliefs, and emotions live. It's where this feeds into, and then this runs, our programming, which we'll get to in a minute. So this represents 5% of our thinking, and this represents 95% of our thinking. All right? But here's the kicker. When you and I were born, this conscious mind, it wasn't part of our development yet. It wasn't even developed yet. Up until between ages 5 and 8, everything just poured in directly into our subconscious mind with no filters. So think of our conscious as a filter. And prior to age 5 to 8, everything went into the subconscious mind. Our parents, teachers, environment, even things we overheard on TV poured into our subconscious programming. It's no mistake that Our grandparents would say, "Oh, I need to watch my program." Marketing has known for a really long time that messages over and over and over program our subconscious. So before age 5 to 8, all of these things that were flowing in through into our subconscious mind, they formed our paradigm. Now, our paradigm is basically the program running in the background of our life. It's what determines how we think, feel, and act, and ultimately the results we get. And here's the truth. Most people never update this program. They live their whole lives running the same old patterns that got written when they were kids. Let's dive into this a bit. So let's talk about the program and how it runs our day-to-day. So again, we have the conscious, the subconscious, and how does this work? I'm glad you asked. We have 5 senses: smell, touch, see, hear, taste, right? These are information that comes in through these 5 senses. What we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we taste, what we smell. And then we also have these higher faculties that are part of our thought process. So things like imagination, intuition, memory, reasoning, and willpower. These are all aspects of our inputs. So we either have inputs from the physical world in which we have physical senses that bring this information in, or we have these higher faculties that hang out over here. Okay? All of these feed directly into this section. It hits our conscious mind. The 5% of our ability to specifically think. Everything else runs in this habitual 95% realm. Are you with me so far? So let's say we see something and we're like, oh, a growling dog. Maybe they're drooling. So we hear the growling, we see them growling, we see them drooling, and we start to formulate this and we judge it as danger. Boom. Now we have this thought of danger, which is another word for fear. All right? From this danger, we then drop into our body, which is the emotional response to our subconscious thought. This creates our emotion. Now, you've heard me talk about this. Now we're breaking it down. This is energy in motion. Now, what does this do? Well, it's the state in which we are moving to the next direction. So it's putting our energy in motion. Now, we sensed a growling dog. We labeled that as dangerous. We're created fear, which now drove into fight, flight, freeze. This label automatically created a survival mode mechanism, which then, so survival, which then leads to this area, which is what happens. Are we going to run? Are we going to fight? Whatever it is becomes our predisposed programming to a growling dog. So let's say we run. Here's the key. This is a reaction that feeds back and creates an habitual pattern. Next time we see a growling dog, this process gets quicker. And once we see the growling dog, we go from here to here like that. And this is a negative feedback loop. A negative habitual feedback loop, also known as a paradigm. And it's the paradigm we do not want. We have a sense of something, or we have a thought of something. So this works with thoughts as well. We have a thought of, I have to give a presentation. The idea of the presentation that comes in here, the Prezi, we label it, create fear, drop into here, and we're back into survival mode, just like we're facing this growling dog that happened when we were 10, maybe. And this becomes habitual in nature. And this is everything that we sense in this world is created this way. And we create these habitual patterns to keep us flowing in the life that we want to live in, or in the life that someone else created for us. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you're not paying attention, your conscious mind will just start passing this information along to your subconscious, the same way it always has. And then it creates a reaction. This is technically a reaction because as we are met with the dog, super quick go down to here and we just react in the same way. And we loop and loop and loop, and this pattern is created. And we do it without even thinking anymore because this is running 95% of our mind. It's what it's there to do. It's there to protect us. But that's a reaction. And a reaction means input comes in, old program interprets it, same emotion is generated, same actions follow, and surprise, 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 we get the same results. And those results reinforce the program. These results feed back into here, and it reinforces our program. Which means we're stuck in this loop. But here's the good news. You have the ability to respond. What does responding look like? So a response is different. It's when we use this 5% conscious mind, this conscious awareness, to pause, to choose a new meaning. So instead of letting old paradigms run our show, we would say, wait a second. I don't have to see it that way. I don't have to react that way. And this is what happened in a recording I did. Actually, it's next week's episode with Dr. Elia, a brilliant psychologist who is an amazing individual. He was experiencing pain in his arm from a fall. So we were going to postpone the recording. He insisted, no, we're here, let's do this. And a simple yet profound question of, Dr. Elia, what if you shifted your interpretation from pain to sensation? Meaning, I am feeling sensation in my arm. What would happen? So we tried it. And within minutes, his body began to respond differently to this new interpretation of thought and feeling. And there was a significant decrease in pain that he stated. So that new choice creates a new understanding in the subconscious, which generates a new emotion, a new energy and motion, a new energy in a different direction, which drives a new action, which produces new results. And over time, that new loop becomes your paradigm. So how does it work? All right, we have our senses here, right? These are our sensor receptors. All right, so let's go back to the dog analogy. We see and hear a growling dog. Instead of relying on the chemical cocktail that is released from our previous habitual patterns, we pause. We may even take a step back and we breathe and we say out loud, "Dog's growling." And we can give it new meaning. Or we can simply say, "This dog seems upset." Has nothing to do with me. But this pause, this new idea of this dog, it changes my interpretation. So it's no longer mean, now it's just something that's happened. And this goes in and it shifts that chemical cocktail of fight, flight, or freeze, the survival mode. And now we are calm. And now we're able to respond, thereby creating a different result. And in this response, we have a different reaction out here from what we're used to. Maybe it feels weird. Maybe someone's like, "Well, wait a minute, you used to be scared of dogs." It's a mirror shining back to us to reinforce our previous negative feedback loop. And again, we're responding now. So we have the ability to say, no. I gave this new meaning. And we're creating a different loop. We're actually changing the trajectory of how this flow was processing. We're reversing it and we're putting a new label on it. And we're going to be met back with that higher faculties, these mental faculties of intuition, imagination. And it's going to come back in our mind like, wait, no, we're scared. No, that was the previous. I choose calm. And eventually, this becomes your habitual pattern. And this becomes the way that you react. Because this is the new paradigm. And it's shifted. What does this look like in real life? This is an example of a dog. Let me give you a real life example. And many of you already know this. There was a time in my life where I only saw the negative aspects of everything that was going on, despite the fact that I had an amazing life. I had Brecht, first of all. I had an incredible wife who loved me dearly, who taught me daily the concepts of relationship and how to be the person who I am made to be. We had a daughter who taught me how to be a dad. She was incredible. I had family and friends who were amazing. I had a house. We had a pool. I had the ability to do whatever I wanted to do physically. No limitations. I had a job that worked with with kids. The most incredible blessing I could have ever asked for were all at my fingertips. And I chose to look for the bad. Everything I looked at was just pure crap, according to my subconscious belief. So, this led into everything. And then my wife, as many of you know, she said, hey, look for something good. Pause. When something's coming in and you're like, oh, this is bad, this is awful, oh, it's going to take so much more work, which I was recently reminded of going back to these old paradigms and these old programs. When you think it's going to suck, pause. Look for the good. Shift the interpretation that you're giving on that input, that I'm giving on that input. And just like that, it happened. And here's the amazing, fascinating thing, is when we're in this habitual feedback loop, we don't tend to see the things that are going on continuously because they're programmed, they're habitual. We don't pay attention to it. The minute you attempt to shift out of that and maybe look at the other side of the coin or look for the other meaning, it's like your world pauses. And you take off the sunglasses that you've been wearing in a dim room and you're able to see things. And so my story goes, everything I looked at, there was good. And I kept rewriting this habitual pattern over and over and over until the point of erasing the old one and creating a positive feedback loop. Then it became habitual. I didn't have to think about it. And I was able to then build upon top of that. So once I was able to see the good in everything, I was able to show others the good in everything. But like this all started from a basic understanding of this stick figure. So I learned this after the fact. But this allowed me to see what actually happened and how I don't have to keep reacting, I can respond. So I build upon Bob Proctor's model of his paradigm model into the response and the reaction, because that's what made sense to me. And this is what innovation is. This is what education is. This is what education by design is. It's the ability to move beyond what someone's teaching and keep scaling on this education. So when I started working with the stick figure model, I realized I don't have to keep reacting. I can respond and create a new trajectory, a new feedback loop. And so the next time it came up, I paused. The next time I was faced with a situation that was familiar of the old ways and beginning to become familiar in the new recognition of goodness, I paused. I told myself a different story about that input. I looked for the good because I knew it was there. And instead of reacting with this old emotion of, God, man, this sucks, I can't believe this, and walking in this energy in motion, this emotion of defeat, of guilt, of shame, I chose a new one. I chose a new one of empowering, of joy, of peace, of exploring. And that one small shift created a different outcome. And it gave me the proof that change is definitely possible. And that's when it clicked. I am not a victim of my programming. I'm actually the author of it. You are not the victim of your programming. You're the author of it. You have the ability to write and rewrite the program in which you desire. Now, let's take this even further. Now, imagine this isn't you. Imagine this is an entire organization. The inputs for a company are things like leadership communication, policies, environment training, education. All of that pours into the organization's mind. It's culture. If leaders are operating out of old paradigms, the culture reacts. Same inputs, same patterns, same results. Disengagement, turnover, lack of innovation. But when leaders learn to respond instead of react, everything shifts. They can then begin to design their environment intentionally, reframe challenges, and empower their people to create new results. That's the foundation of SimRx. That's exactly what SimRx is about. I call it intentional education by design. It's teaching individuals and organizations how to stop reacting to old patterns and how to start responding with new ones. And when we do this through the tools of education, which we mentioned earlier is an input of theirs, this becomes organically ingrained into their everyday culture. And it creates a new paradigm by going through the process. So what happens when that shift takes hold? Paradigms change. Cultures evolve. Workplaces become a place where people thrive, not just survive. This is no different than the individual. It's just at scale. It's a larger combination. Why? Because there's multiple people now in this Ubuntu culture of I am because we are, and we are becoming because we're shifting paradigms. And that's when magic happens. Leaders design environments where responding replaces reacting. Culture itself becomes the medicine. We shift. No more reacting. Instead, we start responding. We start rewriting our new paradigm. So, a few takeaways. You have a paradigm, a program running your life. We all do. I do. That's how our mind is created to keep us alive, safe, and well. And we keep reacting to the same old inputs and getting the same old results, no matter what we tell ourselves. So we can pause, respond, give a new meaning to the input that's coming in, and create a new paradigm that aligns with who you actually want to be. So this week, I want you to notice just one place in your life where you tend to react on autopilot. When you notice this, pause. Choose a different interpretation, a different label of that input. If it's something you hear, a noise, if it's something you see, something you smell, you taste, give it a different meaning and choose a different response. Let's see what happens. And if you're a leader, ask yourself, how can I design my environment so that my people are empowered to respond instead of react? I'll give you a hint. It starts with our ability as leaders to respond instead of react. But that one question is the secret to real cultural transformation. And remember, you don't have to stay stuck in old programs and old paradigms. You have full permission to write a new one. And that starts right now. I have been a fan of Bob Proctor's for a really long time. Bob Proctor has taught me so much about the power I hold within this world. Many of you have heard me talk about my Justice League of Mentors or my Justice League of Intangible Mentors. Bob Proctor sits right here. On the other side is Wayne Dyer. Two of the most influential teachers in my life. I have one person saying right now, loud and clear, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. And then I have my counterpart saying, that's how we shift paradigms. That's how we create a new way of seeing the world, is by rewriting our paradigms. And we do that by changing the way we look at things. And this is how we can change the way that we look at things. If you enjoyed this, if you found any encouragement, information, ideas, please share it. Share it with others, and let's get this movement out into the world even bigger than it currently is. This is my passion, to break down our ability as humans to become superhuman in our amazing attributes, our genius that we have to share with the world. And I cannot do it without you and your support. Check out the book SimRx, Transforming Healthcare, Leadership, and Culture by Design. And it walks through a blueprint of how we do this through education, through leadership, while setting the tone for the future of healthcare and the future of education by creating an environment that we're open to innovate. We're open and we're able to be so self-aware that we own our education, and thereby we can recognize what we need, when we need it, and how we need it. And that includes the future. And in the middle of this whole thing, in the middle of the organization, are the leaders. It's the people willing to take the first step, and they're willing to shift their own paradigms and offer environments for others to shift theirs. So please share this podcast, get the book, reach out to me, connect with me. Let's chat on a deeper level about shifting paradigms. about changing the way we see the world, and about forgiving ourselves on this journey of transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to see you on the next episode. But until then, be well, be loved. Thank you for listening to Pep Talks with Eric. If something sparked today, pass it forward. Remember to subscribe and share it with someone who needs it. Keep doing the thing. Keep showing up. You're not alone in this. And we're not whole without you. I'll see you next time.